Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi, I hope the technical issues are better. Is everything all right? We were running around to make sure everything was fine. Can you hear us well?
Hello, hello.
Is the frame rate, does it make sense? All right, so please let us know if anything technical happens here, and we'll try to adapt as soon as we go. Bear with us, it's the first time we're doing this. So, hi, I'm Alexis. I'm the co-founder and studio director at Chasing Rats Games, and I'm here with Remy, co-founder also and creative director on Worship. We're really happy to have you here. I see the chats on multiple platforms right now. Unfortunately, we had to close Twitch for the moment, but we can see the YouTube and Discord people loud and clear. All right, so before we start, we wanted to talk about why are we doing this? So game dev being game dev, and Worship has been a quite ambitious project that we've been working on for the past 2 years now, a little bit more than 2 years. And we realized while doing it that the objective that we had to showcase to give you Kickstarter backers the opportunity to play the game this year was a little out of reach at the moment, but we still wanted to make sure that you have a better idea of what the project is, what's the state of the game, what's going to happen with Worship next year, and how awesome the game is in its current state, even if it's a little bit unstable right now.
Yeah, one thing that has been important for us was to adapt our communication to your feedback. So at first we were doing a little bit more distant Kickstarter updates. We started doing monthly updates. And now, because of the delay for the actual game, we wanted to give you something that would show you a bit more of the game so that you would have a better idea of what to expect for the backer alpha, beta, and early access.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about Kickstarter and Kickstarter backers, but if you're here and you're not from the Kickstarter in this context, we're really happy to have you here. We sure hope you love all the gameplay that we're going to showcase to you today. So, speaking of which, today's planning will be, we will start by showcasing the game. We'll deep dive on the gameplay loop and what's in Worship right now. And just so you know, we are not going to answer questions during that part specifically, just because there's a lot that we need to go into. So we want to make sure that we have the time and we stay focused on what we're going to not lose everybody's time. Then after the showcase of the game finished, we're going to talk about what to expect in 2024, a quick update on the roadmap, what to expect from us, what's going to happen with Worship next year. And then after that, we're going to a Q&A session in which you will be able to ask us questions directly. So via on Discord directly, you will be able to request to speak, and our moderators will give you the opportunity to talk with us via voice chat. If you're not comfortable to chat with us in voice chat, you can also just ask your questions in the different chats, so on YouTube and on Twitch, on YouTube and on Discord, sorry. And our moderator will give us the questions directly, and we'll be able to answer them without you having to speak to a human being. Make sense?
And just before heading into the game, we have a couple of disclaimers. Of course, this is the reason why you don't have it in your hands right now for a backer alpha is because it's still early. It's still a pre-alpha build. And there will be bugs. You'll see some things that you are not supposed to see once you have the game into your hands. So
that's part of the magic, right?
Yeah, please bear with us. We might sometime use stuff that we shouldn't, like a debug menu and stuff like that. But otherwise, I think it's still pretty decent to show you where the game is heading and what to expect for the backer alpha.
Yeah.
And I think you have my headset, so this one will be a little bit short. Thanks. So that said, I think we can jump right into the game showcase and start with that.
Great. So we're in. All right. What is Worship? The goal of the game is to prove your devotion to your God. So you can see on the screen right now, we have a little kill test right here. For the moment, we're playing in single player, but keep in mind that everything that you will be able to play it online in co-op up to 4 players. So at the start of the game, you will decide which god you want to worship. In this case, we worship Anan's guide, who's the apostle of destruction and likes to kill stuff. You will need to prove your devotion to it, so you can see that there's a bar up the statue. Your goal is, at the moment, get that bar to 100. To do so, you will do a bunch of cultist activities, and those cultist activities will grant you devotion points, basically. What are cultist activities? Converting people to your cult, doing rituals, destroying the statues and idols and anything that goes to other faction, defeating the other faction, and making sure that you are as grim as you can. So we can go down.
We'll start by showing you a bit of like the action you can do as a cultist, the controls and everything, and then we'll start exploring more into the world. So first, of course, you can stab yourself and bleed on the ground to draw symbols. And once you have your symbols, you can activate a ritual if your shape is correct. In this case, circle would be my conversion ritual.
Yeah, and basically, right now we are in the exploration phase of the game. The game is divided in two phases, exploration and test of fate. We'll get to test of fate afterwards, but during the exploration phase you will have to get stronger as a cult. Yes, prove your devotion to your god, but also get more and more followers into your cult to ask them to do job for you, because as a cultist you don't do anything. You ask people to do stuff for you, like pick up stuff, like attacking the enemies or destroying idols and stuff from the other factions.
All right. We haven't ventured directly into the gameplay loop, but as Alexis said, we'll go into the world and start gathering devotion in this thing we call the exploration phase. You haven't talked what happened once we reach 100 devotion.
So basically, when you get to 100 devotion, your god will ask you to do a test for it, which we call the test of fate, which is basically a flavorful way to talk about a boss fight or a significant challenge that you can ask your players to do. So every cult member will have to gather through the altar and ask the god to do the test of fate and be teleported somewhere else. Basically, the gameplay loop is to do that exploration phase, get stronger and stronger, grow your cult in terms of followers and getting new buildings that's going to give you more upgrades and different type of rituals and upgrades for your followers and your cultists. And once you feel like you're strong enough and you gathered enough devotion, you do the test of fate, defeat the boss, and you go back to another exploration phase, and you go back and forth with those two phases until you get to the final test of fate, which is the summoning ritual, in which you summon your god into the world and cause the apocalypse, as a good cultist would do.
Thanks for the rundown. Now that we converted a couple of followers, as you might know, we can order them to do stuff. So of course, you can send them at places and you can order them to do stuff. You can recall them to your position so they can listen back to your orders and they can eat stuff. So now we're in a little church hamlet and there's a statue idol dedicated to their goddess. So we'll destroy that because we don't like it. And our god will reward us with devotion for breaking the statue.
Yeah, so we got 20 devotion points for breaking the statue of another god. The thing to remember is that we are in pre-alpha right now, so every measurable data that you can see, like the amount of devotion that you're going to gain from a specific activity or the amount of damage your followers are doing, whatever enemy health, all that sort of stuff, will most likely change during the Kickstarter Alpha also.
Yes, so one thing we'll look into is the map and the environment. Keep in mind
bear with us.
Yeah, bear with us. The visuals are very much work in progress, but they give a good idea of how we distribute and use procedural generation to spawn content into the world to give you stuff to do plays differently in every of your run. So if we look at the map, you'll see some questionable visual, but with icons that tell you where there's stuff to destroyed, where there's enemy, where there's encounters, and all of that good stuff. So we'll start exploring a little bit around and tell you about some other mechanics. just before you see me doing this in combat, as you know, we can spill blood on the ground, but you can also absorb it back. So if you mess up your shape while drying, or if you need to get back some blood, which is also your health.
Yeah, because of course when you bleed on the ground to draw shapes, you will lose health. And if you don't want to lose health, you can also use your followers as blood bags. So we can draw different shapes. So right now we had a circle for the conversion, but we also have the square for the impel ritual, which would be used to attack enemies.
So we'll just move towards a group of enemy. And I'll grab one of my followers to...
Obviously, Pikmin is an inspiration, so grabbing followers to throw them around is part of the main thing. So in this map specifically, we are in what we call the Untamed Borderlands, in which is a battlefield from a narrative perspective, is a battlefield from two different factions in worship, the Church and the Untamed. And you have to, so you will encounter a bunch of church-based enemies because they are currently invading the battlefield. The other thing that you might have seen right now is that the priest, the bishop actually, used multiple abilities, but one of them was the mass conversion. So it uses quite a slow attack, which has an obvious area of effect, but once it was activated, the followers that Remy had at his disposal became fanatics from the church and started attacking us instead. So you'll have to worry about these types of activities and abilities.
What I haven't used in combat is some offensive spell. I'll show you one right now that I'll be able to put to use in next fight. What's neat about spells in general is that the size of the shape that you draw will directly influence the effect of the spell. For some, it can influence the amount of damage it does. For some other, it can impact the area of effect. So like this one, ritual is called Impale. When I activate it, it'll create a AoE damage zone, which will deal more damage the closest it is to the center. And the bigger your shape is, the bigger the AoE.
So the game is a roguelike, so it's randomly generated. The map will be different each time, and all of the upgrades that you'll get will be different each time. So these are the type of flexible encounters that you can find throughout your run, which are scattered throughout the map. This one is obvious. You need to use your blood mechanic to reproduce the shape that's currently being pictured here, and Remy will do the best he can to do so, and we got a significant amount of devotion from that. You can take back your blood afterwards. So these type of encounters will be scattered everywhere, and these are one of the various scopes of encounters that you can find. I think we'll go now see the painter encounter to showcase what's the things we can do with this specifically.
We might cross near one or two more.
There's other flexible encounters that we can showcase,
So you'll see some familiar environment when exploring the area of the game, but every time some of these area will be removed to make place for some more exotic encounters, like this one, terrifying eldritch slug that looks like it has been experimented on by maybe the Coven. So I'll just hit him, see what it does. I won't spoil everything right away during this dev stream. Might want to recall my follower on this.
The best friend of a cultist is the recall function. If your followers are in trouble, the thing that you need to do is to recall them, because they are a bit too dumb to act by themselves. You will need them to command them, and they trust you as a leader. They'll do everything you do, even if it means dying to a weird eldritch creature in random areas.
Oh, and there's this thing that we call the follower transmuter. It's still in early stage, but it'll be used to convert a certain amount of follower into a reward. In this time I got a chest, and some other time an enemy could have spawned or some other things, and I got a relic from it. So I think it's could be a good example of bringing back to base just before the other encounter. I might get some follower because I lost a couple one. Previous fights.
One way to get devotion to your god is to give them treasures or relics, as we can see right now, which these can be traded for devotion. And not right now in the current state of the game, but one of the plans that we have for the game with the relics is to trade them for what we call blessings, which we will be explaining in 2024 and not right now, just to give you a little teaser about it. Alright, so we'll get back to the base. The back and forth with the base is part of the gameplay loop. You will, if you find catalysts to gain new buildings, you will have to come back to your base to get stronger and stronger. Same things with the relic. If you put it into, you give it to your god, it will grant you a significant amount of devotion. And now the god is ready to test you. But are we ready to do the test of fate? I'm not quite sure yet. I think we need more upgrades for our cult, and we need more followers. So we'll go back into exploration to make sure that we feel like we're strong enough. And that's part of the design philosophy that we have with worship in general, is to make sure that you have kind of a risk management, or making sure your decision to take in between how are you ready to do a specific challenge, and are you ready to lose followers or you lose health or any resources that you have to potentially get stronger from that. So now, do we feel like we have enough followers to go to the boss, or should we risk to do more challenges throughout the exploration phase to get new catalyst or more followers? That's it.
So we'll do a little bit more by showing you the painter event. So you've seen some more flexible encounter along the way, but some bigger part of the map will be replaced by like bigger encounters with like narrative context and everything. So let's show you this one. So this is the church painter, and as you see, he may be stumped for some inspiration for his next piece of art. And for these gameplay moment that we call event encounter, there will be multiple ways to solve them and to get a reward from it. So as you can see, the painter has two Inquisitor guard that doesn't attack you when you get close. If I so desire, I could potentially attack them and defeat them and scare the painter into giving me some reward. But
pretty sure our god would be pleased with that, but we are trying to showcase different aspects of the game, so we'll try to do something else instead.
So there's pieces of the chapel scattered around that maybe the Untamed broke everything, and we will try to place them back into place and see what the painter thinks, and if it can bring him some inspiration, and we'll maybe get some ways to get stronger along the way.
Basically, in those events, or these module encounters that we call from a developer perspective, these are, the scope of this is that we have really a zone that's dedicated for this specifically. So the hints and the puzzle pieces that you will need to find are scattered through this, and one way to tell if you're going too far away for this encounter specifically is if you hear the music change, because we can highlight right now that Leon's work, our music composer, did an amazing job to create a specific ambience for this part of the game. But as soon as we leave the painter encounter area, we will go back to the exploration music that you maybe noticed before.
Well, now that we've placed everything into place, the painter has something to tell, so we'll see what he has in mind.
And he gave us a catalyst.
So these things are basically chrysalis of creature from the Unseen Depth, which the gods come from, and you can basically bring them to your base to summon monuments that will give you new powers. The color and the visual and the shape of the crystal will basically indicate the tier of the catalyst and its type, which matters for the type of upgrade you can get from those buildings. We'll go back to base, bang those, and then we'll see if we're ready for the test of fate.
Is there another flexible encounter that would not be too far away that we could do? I don't think so, right?
They're a little bit far. I might cheat a little bit and spawn myself another catalyst to unlock new ritual to give you an idea of how it's done in the game. But for now, we'll just go ahead and bang these. So these are your building sockets. You will earn more in your run by completing Test of Fate, but you start with a certain number and you can bang the catalyst into them, summon buildings and get new powers.
So now we are able to move faster now that we add that specific monument. And you can see that if your shape is a little bit too rough or too small, it might not be good enough to activate a ritual. And something that we're currently working on is giving feedback to the players if the ritual is going to be a success or not before activating, because it can be devastating to be wrong with your shape. If you draw something that looks nothing like a shape, it will not help you overcome the challenges.
So now you'll have to ignore what I'll do because I'll open
close your eyes for like 10 seconds
to spawn myself a catalyst to earn a new ritual.
Yeah, all right, easy. As soon as we saw this, there's screenshots, of course. We saw you, Wheat.
So each building types and each tier of building has a different visual for those, so I hope you'll have fun discovering what they'll look like. And we'll now show you the ritual loadout menu, which is where you can consult the ritual you have available and bind them to shapes. So there's two different types of ritual in the game. There's the alterable rituals and sealed rituals. The alterable rituals are meant to be easier to use in combat with the basic shapes. So how it works is you can bind those to any available basic shape. So as you saw, the conversion was binded to circle, impale to square. If I so desire, I could have put conversion to triangle, and one of my new spell like Ghastly Claw into circle if I wanted to be easier to cast. And let's say blood combustion to diamond.
We'll showcase you the different rituals that we just unlocked. There's also the seal ritual, if you want to go with this before.
The seal ritual are basically the more complex, cooler shape to draw, but because they are more complex, they are a little bit harder to draw in combat situation. So these will be reserved for more powerful ritual or ritual that are meant to be used outside of combat. So expect those to be ritual that will have a more powerful effect and that will be rewarding to draw or even team up with your friends to draw together.
Currently, the seal ritual that we have is the revive one. Keep in mind the game is an online multiplayer game, so you can. We're not exactly sure how, like, if we want to keep it in the final game, but so far it's to make sure that if your teammates are dying during your runs, you can maybe revive them with the specific rituals.
So, just talking about the Ghastly Claw, there's some different ritual than the Impale, which is instantaneous once you activate the shape. Some other ritual that we call active effect ritual gives you instead another way to unleash its power once you have activated the shape. So in this case, I can send a projectile to damage my enemies from afar, or I even have the blood combustion, which enables me to light up blood on the ground into fire, which can damage my enemy. So I can like prepare a firewall and bait my enemy into going into it, which is fun.
Keep in mind also that, and this happens with the blood combustion specifically, when the input that you use to activate, like to use one of these active effect rituals, are directly linked with the same input that you use for activate rituals. So what happens more often than not is that you have the blood combustion ready and you try to convert followers with a circle, and then you just create a fire circle instead, and you don't get your followers. So you'll have to make a decision in, like, you have to commit to the active effect rituals that you have until you use all of its charges. And some rituals may have different number of charges depending on the shape, how big the ritual was, let's say. So these are the types of parameters that we'll work with to give you player input on how you use the rituals in combat and outside of combat.
Yes, so just before heading into the test of fate,
you haven't shown the other.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
what
okay,
I was going
cool.
to. So these are the menus that will be useful during for your call during your run. There will be a tab for the map that for now is what you saw, but for the call base and your upgrade, you have this one little menu that will specify which part of the call base you have unlocked, which building you have currently, and you can read more about the upgrades you have there. Which type and tiers of catalyst it was, and eventually blessings and some other mechanic that we're not ready to talk about yet, like the utility buildings. So
he said it.
Just a little tease. So as you saw last time, we got 100 devotion. Now the altar is a lot more ominous because my god is ready to send me on my test of fate. So, did I do everything? Can I go?
I think so. Yeah, I think we can do it.
Yeah.
All right, so if you've been following us in the past year, specifically in Kickstarter updates, we've been teasing a specific boss for a couple of months now. So we decided that today we wanted to showcase to you what's that boss actually and give you a little tease on what's going to happen with this specific NPC.
Yeah, and just before we go into it, I just want to shout out all of the music you've heard during the exploration phase and that you can hear now during the test of fate. So of course Leon Monette has been working on new music that you might have heard for the Untamed Borderland during the exploration, and there's also there will be music specifically for different contexts of the game, so I hope you'll look forward to hearing new stuff when you'll have the game into your hands.
And that will be all for today. To see more about the boss, you will have to wait for the Kickstarter Alpha. All right, so I sure hope you enjoyed the gameplay that we showcased and that you have feedback to give us on everything you just saw regarding the gameplay loop, the way that the game works, the design philosophy that we have. The reason why we wanted to make this in the first place was to talk with the community that we have. Since the Kickstarter, we wanted to make sure that we were developing a game having the feedback of people that are actually going to play it. So doing this on Discord and doing this on Kickstarter is part of that specific philosophy. So please give us your comments. Before going into the live Q&A, we're going to just talk a little bit more about what to expect from us in the next few months. So basically, we are committing with the Kickstarter Alpha. We already announced the date on the March 4th. With the Alpha will take a full week and it's going to be on Steam only at the moment. And the other thing that we're going to commit is that we're going to launch Worship in early access in 2024, and the current plans for consoles and the full release is still for 2025. The main reason why I'm not right now talking about the beta and I'm not talking about the public demo or a release month for the game is for multiple reasons, but one of them is that we are going to wait for the feedback from the Kickstarter Alpha before committing to another roadmap. We realized that it was pretty difficult to keep track of all of those roadmaps, and game dev is game dev, so we want to make sure that we take into account the amount of work that's going to be required to get the best Kickstarter beta, let's say, from the feedback that we get from the alpha. So some things will have to wait until we get further into development to make sure that we don't commit to a roadmap that we still need to update and still need to push back things in the future. So I sure hope you understand that specific things, and we, as we're doing Kickstarter updates every month. We're depending on how this goes in general, we might do more Devstream in the future. So we want to make sure that we are transparent with you guys and that you understand the current situation that we have and that you're still really hype about what you just said today.
Yeah, and just for the backer alpha specifically, there'll be like a lot more polish and more stuff that what you saw here.
There's additional enemies that you haven't seen also that's going to be in the Kickstarter Alpha.
You might hear a little bit about this in the monthly Kickstarter update that will ship really soon. But yeah, so expect more polish in general than what you saw here, and expect us to do our utmost best to make like the game the best it can be with your feedback also when you'll be able to play it.
Yeah. So we just got a couple of questions that have been transferred to us. We'll start with the Q&A right now. So I'm gonna go with the questions that are currently written in the chat that have been transferred to me. But if someone wants to speak with us directly and ask question on the stream, don't be shy. You can just request to speak on the Discord chat, the Discord stage, sorry, and we'll be able to hear you there and talk with you directly. So first question we got, I don't have the names of people, so I'll just go with this specifically. How forgiving is the shape recognition in this game? Like, how tolerant does the game calculate a circle versus a square?
I think I can go for this one.
The best one for this one. Yeah.
This is one of the first things we've worked when we started working on Worship, because we knew it was really important for the player experience. Like, the system needed to be tolerant enough to understand shapes that aren't like really good, and it needed good enough to distinguish shape between each other. So we're still actively working on it, and we've worked a lot on it in the past year, but right now it's pretty good. I'd say there's still improvement that we want to do on it, but it can recognize shapes that aren't particularly well drawn, as long as it looks like the category of shape it needs to be. And it's pretty good at distinguishing shapes between each other, so like a square from a circle, or any more. We've tried with more complicated or similar things, like a triangle between a triangle and a triforce and stuff like that, and it worked pretty well, but there's still improvement to do. And one of the biggest improvement we are actively working on for shape recognition is giving you more feedback before you activate a spell. So for the backer alpha, expect to see which shape the system recognize that you want to activate before you activate it, so you'll know if it's a square, if it's a good one, if it's a bad one, if it's a valid shape or not. So you'll spend less time activating and messing up a ritual, and you'll have like more information directly regarding that.
Yeah. And there's pretty like specific things we can do with the ritual mechanic right now. Like, we could put a square into a square into a square, and it's able to detect that there's 3 different shapes, and you can activate one after the other to do powerful attacks with that. So there's flexibility that we wanted to achieve with this that are really interesting.
Next question
is there controller support? Yes, there is.
Yes.
Consoles are part of our plans in general. We haven't announced which consoles yet, but consoles are part of it, and to make sure that we are ready for this, having controller support is part of it, and it will be available on Steam also, and it will be available for the Kickstarter Alpha also. Yeah. There's even a debate inside the team on, well, actually, it's Felix against the others, of is Worship better to be played in keyboard and mouse or with a controller? It really depends on who you talk with, but...
So the game is actively playable with a controller right now. It's just there's a couple of improvements we want to work on for it to feel as good as the mouse and keyboard. Like you said, I'm a little bit biased, but both are super good way to play the game, and expect to be able to play with a controller for the backer alpha.
Yeah. There's another one. How long have you been working on this game? We officially started working on the pre-conception phase of Worship, I believe, in November 2020. Is that right?
Yeah, it's It's been 3 years ish if we count like preparing the Kickstarter and everything.
Yeah, we announced the game with Kickstarter in March 2021, and we've been preparing the Kickstarter in November 2020, I believe.
Yeah, one thing that matters for this question, I think, is the team changed a lot since then. Like the team was smaller, coming out of struggling, and of course, with the Kickstarter success and everything, we started hiring to have a team that was able to ship Worship as we envisioned. So yeah, the amount of people that worked on it changed along the development, but it's been that long since
we were
worked.
Fortunate enough to have the opportunities to scale up the team and the resources to scale up the team to make the game with the vision that we had for it initially. So this goes with taking more time to make it, but also finding the right team and building tools that we needed to make a sustainable game. We now have 13 people working on Worship right now, and each of one of them is extremely talented. So we would not be ready to showcase things to you if it was not for this amazing team. So I think we go like this. Good. All right, another question. This is done. Do neutral followers, the godless, ever respawn, or do you have to explore further to get more? I'll let you get more into this specifically, but the basically followers are our resource that we are looking at right now on how we want to manage getting more followers or losing your followers actually, and how do we want to address this specifically. There's multiple iteration that we're currently working on. At the moment, you would need to go to the next exploration phase to get more followers if you lose them all in one specific during a combat or during a boss fight.
This is actually something we have noted for the things we want to improve in the game. So the godless do not respawn at the moment, but we're looking at ways to make you able to potentially resurrect some of your followers, so that if you lose a couple in a fight, you can still resurrect a couple and fight back. So this is something that should be in for the backer alpha, so a way for you to feel less vulnerable when you lose a lot of followers at once. Of course, there'll be drawback to this. The way blood work and regenerate will change a lot in the following weeks, but all of that should make the experience feel better for the player and less soul destroying when you lose like 20 followers at once.
Right now it's pretty ravaging.
I think there's someone that wanted to speak. Should we go to that first, or
Savvy wanted to speak?
I click this? No? Okay.
We don't do anything.
All right.
We look at people at the technical side of things and we wait.
While waiting for this, we can, I guess, go into the next one.
So I back Kickstarter on a level that I don't get the beta access. Is it possible for me to upgrade the level to get access to the beta? You will be able to do so. We will need to do the Kickstarter survey before going into the alpha, so people have access to pledge more yet. So, right? I
think it's still unsure. We'll see how this go, but I think we don't have necessarily an answer ready for this specific question right now. But if it's possible for us to do something like that, and for it to feel fair for everybody, we'll look at ways to potentially open up the possibility. We'll see.
Do we have the right permissions to let people speak? Is that the problem that we have right now? I saw it didn't come true.
I think we have another question, which
we'll
is
go with this one.
Debug menu in alpha.
No. If we feel like the alpha needs a debug menu to be fun, we failed. It's not in the plan to give it during the alpha.
If we do our job right, you shouldn't ever see this menu ever again. Whoops.
All right. Is there any more question? Yeah. Will there be accessibility features regarding the drawing aspect? There's at the moment it has not been designed. It's a question that we've been talking about a lot about because when we are doing playtests with people from other friendly studios, or just say when we went to South by Southwest in Sydney, we realized that one of the main thing that people had trouble with was getting to draw not utterly garbage shapes. So making sure that it is a little bit more intuitive to do would be a nice feature. And there's multiple things like having decals on the ground that could help you do stuff, or keyboard and mouse, a different approach to the control on keyboard and mouse that we that would look similar to a real-time strategy game in terms of like clicking and having your character going specifically on a specific point, is something that we're looking at, but we're not committing to do right now because it implies a lot of things. So it's unsure at the moment, but it's something that we're looking at.
Yeah, of course, accessibility is super important. It's just something that will probably look a little bit closer to launch than to earlier stuff like backer alpha and beta. Yeah. And
it won't be in the alpha, that's for sure. Okay, and should our followers be stolen by the priest? Can we convert them back after the 5 if they survive? It's actually one of the main feedback we got from the playtest is people wanting to convert the fanatics into followers of our cult. So it's something that's, I think it's planned for the alpha.
Yeah.
Is it?
So currently, the way you see it, the mass conversion of the bishop was a bit finicky. There's an improvement we want to do, like you saw the follower being killed and like a church fanatic emerging from their corpse. That's not exactly how we want it to work. They should be replaced, and once they are fanatics, you can use the conversion ritual to turn them back into follower. And that's something we want to apply to fanatics in general. So if you encounter fanatics into the wild and you manage to not kill them and cast the conversion ritual into them, they will turn into followers of your cult. So as of now, this is planned in the next couple of weeks. So you should see this for the backer alpha.
Yeah. So Cheddar asked, will bosses work more like Pikmin bosses, like sending your followers to deplete the health bar, or more like puzzle bosses, go push buttons and on floors and bosses lose points? I think it's going to be a mix of both, depending on the test of fate specifically. We have the different type of, like, we already have puzzle-like encounters in our modules, in our flexible content, so having the same kind of approach but in a more intense setting, like in a boss encounter, is something that's totally doable for us.
I don't want to go and spoil like how the boss work, but there's I think a bit of both, in the sense that there's the challenging aspect of combat of reading telegraphed attack, recalling and dodging with your follower at the proper time, and basically just managing the fight. But there's also a little bit of the puzzle aspect, like gimmicks that you can understand by watching all of the aspects of the fight, and basically giving you an advantage if you play your cards correctly, I'll say. I can't say really more without spoiling the actual fight, but I think we can go both ways, and some boss may lean more towards one side than the other. I think the game is we have a lot of possibility to go into both, so yeah. Now I don't see the question anymore. Is more mod support planned? This is actually a question that we've asked ourselves really early in development, and it's quite hard to answer because the amount of work it requires is I don't know how to say it, but it's not super obvious. So it's a little bit unknown. We would like for it to be, but to have much support, but we can't promise anything. And if we do, it'll probably be more towards the 1.0 launch rather than the early access launch. But if the early access launch goes well and the game does well, mod support is a great way to like let the community create content. So we'll, if we can, we'll go towards that for sure.
I'm looking to for the permissions. It seems like normally everyone could ask for request to speak, so I'm just going to check on the channel specifically, but it should work normally. Okay, so you need it. Normally it's just that you request for it and then you that. What's going on?
I read another question and I forgot it right away.
Well, you can write it here. Yeah,
there was another one, but is there a problem to...
Okay, here. Okay. How would you describe Unspeakable Horrors from a gameplay perspective? Are there bosses in the sense that that Don't Starve as bosses? Do you have to encounter them purposefully, or did they just stumble up about? Obviously, it's not too early for them to increase. It's too early for them to be increasingly relevant, but I find myself with no way to describe these little beasties to my friends and family. I appreciate that you talk about the Unspeakable Horrors to your friends and family, by the way.
That's a good question. Right now, we kind of on purpose didn't go into this faction first. We started with more of church enemies and untamed ones, but because the way we see it is Unspeakable Horror, the further you are in your run, the deeper you are in the exploration phase, the more you'll see them, because the more you earn devotion towards your god and the more your cult grows, the thinner the barrier between worlds are, so the more likely you are to see Unspeakable Horror. That said, what does that mean for gameplay? I think they'll be in general stronger enemy than the rest, so they won't be like the equivalent of Test of Fate bosses. But you can see that in the boss we teased, there's definitely some Unspeakable Horror aspect in there, and yeah, in general they'll be stronger enemy, that'll be scarier to encounter, and that'll require like proper preparation, but we might also design some weaker ones. It's something we will know more when we'll have developed some of them.
So Wheat is asking, are we going to get to build normal buildings too? By normal buildings, I assume that you mean non-Eldritch / catalytic buildings. We mentioned briefly utility buildings, so we will have more on that in the future, but we want to get into it, or are we?
Yeah, there's basically the two types of buildings. There's the one that you saw, which we called upgrade buildings, which are basically a visual representation of you getting stronger and building monument to your god in your camp base and unlocking stuff. There'll be also the utility buildings. It's still something we have to work on, so I don't want to talk too much about them, but they'll, as their name suggests, have some kind of utility tied to them and potentially interactions with them. But it's not, I think there's the following question is, are there any defensive building follower that can protect your base? This is a direction that we decided not to go too much into, because there were already a lot of things to learn, a lot of mechanics in the game, a lot of things you can do, and
this was a rabbit hole. Like there's enough technical complexity and enough stuff to learn in Worship specifically that we decided that having enemies attacking your base is maybe not the direction we wanted to go. Your base, your cult base and your altar is your safe space.
Yeah. So your code base is more of a safe haven where you can go a couple of times to replenish or give relic to your god or bank catalyst to get new powers, but there won't be any like base defense aspect to it. And or is that where the co-op aspect comes into play? The co-op aspect come into play in a lot of our mechanics, be it drawing, drawing to cast ritual, follower management, the in combat in general or in exploration, the ability to split, to explore the map either together or to split the tasks, or in combat the ability to help your friend draw some shape or to recall their follower when they are occupied doing something else to save their lives. It gives a lot of I don't know, more options because you can do something while your friend do something else.
There's decision making that you can do and kind of optimize how you do stuff, and there's still that kind of risk reward decision that you're saying to yourself, are we going to be more efficient by splitting ways, or are we all going together doing the same encounters together? There's a bunch of stuff that we kind of there's also chaotic fun of just playing in multiplayer. Like, we know that we've, from the playtest and from our perspective also, it's something that as Chasing Rats we want to continue making great multiplayer games. There's so much laughs and chaos that comes from having a drawing mechanic with a bunch of friends or just handling those dispensable followers together. We feel like there's added value to this. So the co-op aspect goes with using all of those gameplay mechanics that Remy mentioned, but also just having to mess around with friends. So Bill is asking, I'm curious how unlocks are going to work out in a run-to-run basis. Like, will it be more like Isaac, where I unlock something and it has a chance to show up in the future run, or will it be also unlocks that gives the player a head start in some aspect, having stronger rituals unlock or anything in the start of a run? We decided to go with the Isaac way. So having unlock, so having more stuff that's going to unlock the more and more you play, but you as much chance to complete a run. It's really based on your knowledge of the game and the skills that you have to be able to complete a run. It was one of the design philosophy we decided to go with.
Yeah, so more stuff that can appear in your run, eventually more gods that you could unlock. There's this design philosophy that we've talked about in during the Kickstarter. We called those Eldritch prophecies, which would be objectives that challenges that are conveyed to you in the between runs. That you can consult and decide to try to achieve, and when you do, you unlock some more stuff for your run. So it won't be like power things that makes you stronger for your next run, but it'll be content that couldn't appear before that now could be presented in your run, god choices and things like that.
Yeah. You also asked, will difficulty play a role in unlocking specific things? Like, will I have to play on the harder difficulties to unlock specific things, or can I unlock everything other than, say, something cosmetics, like from playing on easy or normal? In terms of difficulty, it is a Kickstarter goal to have the Sacrificial Lamb difficulty, but we're not exactly sure if we don't think we're going to have more than one difficulty, and I don't think we have a specific stance on that right now.
It's not something that we've put a lot of energy right now. We may have more information on that closer to the early access launch or even closer to the 1.0 launch. It's definitely something we'll look into and see which direction we'll take. But the challenge management and difficulty and how it shape out depending on the amount of player and everything is still something we have to work on.
All right. We'll take, it's near 5:10 here. We'll take maybe 3 more questions, and then maybe 4, and then we'll close it up for tonight. The Kickstarter mentioned a backer area. Any idea what stage of the dev that can be put together? Alpha, beta, EA, or full launch? The Kickstarter mentioned a backer area? What do you mean by backer area?
I'm not sure. Backer and Mark. This everything related to the everything related to the Kickstarter reward will give you more information after the early access. It will be between the early access launch and the full launch. But for the backer monument, the way we saw it, it
similar
will be,
to the blood creature.
It'll be something that can sometimes spawn in your run that you can like see, that you can interact with and see the names of all of the Kickstarter backer. So something that will sometimes spawn in the game world that you'll be able to interact with and see these names.
Exactly. I'm surprised about that question since it's written in the orders, but Worship will release in early access in 2024 and on consoles for full release in 2025. So the question, who's the male voice in Price of Progress? For people that don't know about it, it's one of the songs in Worship. You can listen to it on YouTube, Spotify, and any streaming platforms in general. And it's Leandre, actually, the one who sings in Price of Progress, who's the music composer on Worship. Is there a worship dating sim? We will not comment on this.
This is a very important question, and we won't give the very important answer, but I think you know.
All right, so maybe one last question. It can be a silly one, I don't care. And then we will close it up.
Is there something the person that requested to speak asked their question?
I think it was Savvy, and it was already there. Yeah,
fair enough.
I'll let you this one.
Yeah, I think when we're at Anand's end, taste like question, that's our cue.
So Anand's guide hands taste like black licorice, and that's all. All right, so I think that's going to sum him up. Before we leave, we're going to, most of you I assume already listened to it, but we're going to roll the two Save and Sound musicals and covers because it's awesome and you should listen to it more. So
just before, for those who missed part of the live stream, we will try to make the whole thing available. We'll put this in our next Kickstarter update, and we'll probably share the link everywhere that makes sense that we do. So
I think on YouTube the VOD should be up as soon as we close it normally, if everything goes well, and we will share the VOD on the Kickstarter update that's going up tomorrow for November. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you for staying with us even if we had a few technical issues. We hope you liked it, and it was definitely fun to showcase more stuff to you guys. We hope to have feedback from you on Discord, Kickstarter, and on various channels to see if it's worth doing more of those in the future. And thank you very much.
Thanks a lot for your patience. We're waiting for us to deliver the game that we promised. We hope you'll still be merciful, and we'll try to deliver everything that we promised.
We're doing the best game as possible. So enjoy music from Leandre Monette.